Live from a studio somewhere inside the simulation, it's VR News Now.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time of day you are watching this video. Welcome to VR News Now, the #1 destination for all things VR news. And today's lead story sees us heading to Menlo Park, where a pair of meta announcements have undoubtedly put the entire VR industry on notice, as an internal memo penned by Meta Chief Technology Officer Andrew "I Killed Echo VR" Bosworth, titled 2025 The Year of Greatness, has recently leaked, in which the much maligned Bosworth implores Meta employees to, quote, "do the best work of your career right now," as according to Bosworth, 2025 is going to be the most critical year for the company's XR efforts yet, and that this year will likely determine whether this entire XR effort will go down as the work of visionaries or a legendary misadventure. And this of course comes on the heels of a huge fourth quarter for VR, with the release of Meta's much more price-friendly Quest 3 and the appearance of several big-name titles such as Batman Arkham Shadow, Alien Rogue Incursion, and Metro Awakening, leaving many VR enthusiasts very optimistic as to the future of the space as a whole. But recent VR layoffs, combined with general apprehension surrounding the space, has also left many VR goers skeptical about what the future of VR gaming actually looks like. And it is those very layoffs which brings us to our next story, which is the news that veteran VR studio Fast Travel Games will be laying off approximately 60% of its staff due to lower sales than expected from its 6 game launches in 2024. But interesting enough, the statement also notes that this decision was made due to, quote, "a more uncertain year ahead for VR games as a whole," before asserting that these changes will affect mainly our publishing, marketing, and admin departments, although the studio will also be impacted as we consolidate down to one development team. Now, this of course again comes on the heels of a string of VR studios either laying off employees or shutting down altogether, with Archiac, Ready at Dawn, InDreams, Toast Interactive, Soul Assembly, and XR Games all seeing massive layoffs or studio closures since August, leaving many VR developers feeling pretty uneasy about the direction of their industry. And while layoffs and closure of studios always suck, it must be noted that this is not a VR exclusive issue at the moment, as both Ubisoft and Midnight Society have both reported either layoffs and or studio closures as of the last few weeks. So it is important to remain cautiously optimistic at the moment for VR goers, and to remember the importance of supporting these oftentimes underfunded and understaffed studios. And in turn, these studios do have to produce high quality, fun, new titles that bring something to the table and make the money spent worthwhile. And in the spirit of this, let's turn into VR News Now's newest segment, Quick Hits, where each week we highlight a few smaller VR stories of note. And this week it's all about the games, and more specifically, games that need some love. So turning it over to our newest correspondent, Mike Big Boogie Wallace, let's get right to it.
Thanks, Golden. Big Boogie Wallace here, and I've got a few groovy titles that need a little bit more love from all you big cats today. And first up is Mannequin, which is Fast Travel's game, interesting take on a multiplayer shooter featuring asymmetrical 2v3 gameplay, where 3 alien hunters will try to take down 2 shape-shifting aliens who are able to assume the identities of their frozen in time human targets in a very fun, high-stress environment that, once again, simply put, is just a lot of fun, y'all. But if you are looking for a much more relaxed gaming experience, baby, don't you worry, Big Book got you covered. Consider jumping into the peanut button developed puzzle adventure titled Metropolis 2 Never Say Goodbye. As this gem of a title, released in May of last year, provides gamers with a beautiful and cinematic hand-drawn world for you to explore, solve puzzles, and solve mysteries in more of a slow-paced narrative capacity that is 1000% groovy and 1000% worth the play. But last, folks, and most certainly not least, we have the news that Civilization 7 will be gracing VR headsets later this spring. And guys, I am a huge, say it again with me, y'all, a huge fan of this franchise, and after playing Tropical VR, I just knew that this one had to be in the works, as this turn-based strategy game will have you building up a civilization from the ancient days and trying to obtain overall victory, whether that be via peaceful means or complete and total domination. And while we do not have a concrete release date yet, they say it's coming in spring. Well, best believe Big Boogie Wallace is buying this thing. This has been Mike Big Boogie Wallace, VR News Now.
Thanks, Boog. Now, turning our attention to our final story of the day, we look at an issue that has become all too familiar in gaming. Games being released in an absolutely terrible state, and whether we're talking about VR titles such as Hitman VR Reloaded or Stride Fates, or even flat games such as the original No Man's Sky and Fallout 76, this seems to be a trend that is only growing in scale. And with that, cue Alien Rogue Incursion, which, if you remember, had a pretty rocky start with its PC VR and PSVR 2 releases back in December, but the recently dropped MetaQuest 3 version is being widely panned for its downright awful visuals and performance. With Tomislav Bezmalinovic of MixedNews.com busting out Meta's proprietary metrics tool to discover that the game basically runs at 36 frames per second and uses Meta's rendering technology to artificially double the frame rate to 72 frames per second. Now, developer Survios has already responded with a lengthy apology to its fans on its social media and has released the news that a 1.01 patch will be released next week as of the recording of this video that promises to provide greater stability, performance improvements, and more overall immersion. And sure, they do have a track record of actually going back and making good on their promises, as after the initial issues with both the PC VR and PSVR 2 versions, they did go back and tweak those, and both editions of that title are absolutely amazing. It has to be said that this is an issue that should not have happened in the first place, as we have seen this movie before with this title, so it is a bit disappointing that they missed the mark yet again with this one. But rest assured, we will keep you updated on any new information surrounding this one, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so to stay up to date on all your Alien Rogue Incursion news. But that's all the news I have for you folks today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I am Tooodamngolden, VR News Now.